Welcome to the Southampton Town Conservation Board meeting of March 25th, 2026. I'd invite everyone to rise for the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, she's chomping at the bit. She can't wait to get started.
Oh, you just did.
What is your pleasure on the minutes of March 11th, 2026?
Move to approve the minutes as written?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Advisory reports for the Planning Board, Scuttle Bridge LLC subdivision.
Good evening, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This is a subdivision application that has been forwarded for advisory review. The track is located at 2166 Scuttle Road in the hamlet of Bridgehampton. There are several recommended advisory comments. The first indicates that the Conservation Board is generally supportive of the Scuttle Bridge Land Division subdivision map with a latest revision date of January 16, 2026. However, clarity is yet needed as to whether the salamander barriers which are being proposed, whether the salamander barriers are being proposed pursuant to the terms and conditions of a New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and Endangered Species Incidental Take Permit required under the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, Part 182, and if so, whether the DEC has confirmed that the referenced plat complies with the habitat conservation requirements for the identified species, specifically as they apply to breeding pond protection, contiguous open space, construction of swimming pools, window wells, lighting, and drainage. And second, the planned common driveway needs to be constructed with wildlife compatible mountable curbs, and that's in order to reduce risk of entrapment, injury, and mortality to herpetofauna. Thirdly, the subject tract has environmental significance as it is located within the town's aquifer protection overlay district and contains wetlands which are an integral part of the greater assemblage of freshwater wetlands associated with the Long Pond Greenbelt. Notwithstanding these values, a review of town aerial imagery has revealed that historically forested areas within the northeasterly portion of the tract had been cleared without the required state and town freshwater wetland permits between 2010 and 2014. 4, pursuant to a New York State DEC order on consent, the landowner was previously required to restore a portion of the parcel to native vegetation with demonstration of an 80% plant survival rate over a 2-year period. In order to determine whether or not additional restoration activities are needed to bring the parcel into compliance with the State Freshwater Wetlands Act, Chapter 325 of the Town Code, and the State Endangered Species Habitat Protection requirements, the applicant needs to provide a copy of the order on consent. Additionally, the subdivision map needs to be revised to highlight the areas of restoration which were required by the DEC.
What's your pleasure on sending these comments to the planning board?
Move to send the comments as written to the planning
This will be
board.
our first public hearing.
And is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Eric Donato subdivision.
This subdivision is in the pre-application stage and relates to a tract at 39 Bay Avenue East in the hamlet of Hampton Bays. There are several recommended advisory comments. The first indicates that an Environment Division field assessment, which was completed on March 10, 2026, revealed that the rear of the property where the new one-story single-family dwelling is being proposed was cleared of mature oak trees, as likewise evidenced by town GIS aerials dating from 2016. The remaining trees at the rear of the property include 4 mature oaks, which should be protected to the maximum extent practicable. The survey is prepared by Floyd Carrington with a final revision date of August 30, 2023, depicts a proposed building envelope that would require removal of the majority of the remaining large oaks. Second, the Conservation Board recommends that large native oaks or pitch pine trees be planted in order to offset the tree loss, as well as to better natural privacy, provide shade, enhance property values, and to offer ecological services such as groundwater filtration, wildlife habitat, and carbon sequestration. 3, any planned exterior deck should be built with non-treated lumber to avoid chemical runoff into roadways and stormwater drains. 4, there are significant amounts of landscape debris at the site that needs to be properly disposed of and transported off-site to a town transfer station. And lastly, additionally, there is a dumpster at the track which is overflowing with garbage and which needs to be cleaned up to avoid wildlife exposure or rodent or insect infestation.
Motion to send those comments to the planning board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Subdivision of Alec Huffnagel and Leslaw and Helena Roscoe's subdivision.
This subdivision is in its final stage, and it relates to a tract at 51 Little Noyak Path in the hamlet of Watermill. The recommended advisory comments are as follows. 1, based upon an Environment Division field assessment completed on March 18, 2026, landscape debris, including tree limbs, grass clippings, and leaves, is being discarded on proposed lot number 1, lot number 2, and lot number 3, as depicted on the survey prepared by Robert A. Smith, last revised November 13, 2025. Such unauthorized material and debris needs to be hand-raked, collected, and transported off-site to the nearest town transfer station. Second, the developed property contains an 8-feet-high deer fence as pursuant to Section 330-109, which is fences of the town code. Fences cannot exceed 6 feet in height on residentially zoned properties. As such, the overall height of the fence needs to be reduced to a maximum height of 6 feet. Rolling the fence material back and securing it with zip ties is not an acceptable solution. Thirdly, the affected lots are located in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District and contain multiple mature oak and pine trees that have a circumference of at least 4 feet. The forest also provides essential ecosystem services, including biodiversity, aquifer recharge, carbon sequestration, air purification, and wildlife habitat. As such, these woods need to be preserved to the maximum extent practicable. 4, occurrence of rare species have been documented by New York State DEC, as noted by the environmental resource mapper, including some state endangered northern long-eared bat and potentially state endangered eastern tiger salamander. for which habitat loss poses the greatest threats. As such, confirmation is needed from the New York State DEC that endangered species incidental take permits will not be required pursuant to state rules and regulations.
Motion to send those comments to the planning board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The administrative wetland permits are in your packets. Resolution of conditional approval, A019131, the Patricia Lynn Crew Revocable Trust. The applicant requests postponement to April 8th, 2026.
Move to postpone to, as requested.
And the second?
Motion to postpone, you say?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025011, 41 Tarpon Road LLC. The applicant requests postponement to April 8th, 2026.
Move to postpone to April 8th as
Second.
requested.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025021, Mark Schonenbau and Donna Chobanow. Applicant requests postponement to April 8th, 2026.
Motion to postpone April 8, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025054, Charlie Denby and Elizabeth Belton. Applicant requests postponement to April 8th, 2026.
Motion to postpone to April 8, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025062, Donovan Moore and Ann Moore. Applicant requests postponement to April 8th, 2026.
Motion to postpone to April 8, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A026002, Diane Ravitch. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolve that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Diane Ravitch for the proposed project for the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Preliminary review single determination. A024060, Carter Simpson and Sloan Simpson. Applicant requests postponement to April 8th, 2026.
Motion to postpone to April 8, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025009, Samuel Deskovich as trustee for Peter Deskovich Irrevocable Trust.
This application relates to an existing residentially developed property, which is located along Smith Creek in the hamlet of Hampton Bays. However, the property also contains naturally vegetated tidal wetlands, landward of a portion of the property that extends into the abutting property to the north. And I apologize, it looks like the preliminary advisory report is not in your packet. That being said, this application has been made in order to gain this board's approval and a wetland permit in order to elevate the existing one-story dwelling so that the house is FEMA compliant. As the landowner shared with me that the house has a history of flood damage. The landowner is also looking to construct some modest one-story additions. The existing large deck, which is fairly new and whose construction had previously been permitted by this board, can, according to the landowner, be elevated without demolition and reconstruction to the finished first floor level of the heightened home. However, of course, new deck access steps will need to be installed. This is a property that has some history before this board. A prior wetland permit had been conditioned upon establishment of a wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer. But based upon the circumstance of the property at that time, the board elected to allow a significant portion of the waterside buffer to remain as stone rather than be naturally vegetated, with however, the more northerly portion had to be planted. Landowner expressed that he had a lot of difficulty with plant survival as far as the installed native vegetative cover. So even in the portions of the buffer that had to be vegetated, the cover is quite sparse. And then the area was impacted somewhat by mowing as well. My advisory report is supportive of this application, but recommends that the entirety of the buffer be planted with native vegetation,
Marty, it's a 10-foot buffer in this case?
inclusive of the 10-foot buffer and the variable width buffer at the north end. So I'm recommending that the entirety of the buffer be vegetated in order to offset wetland impacts. That mitigative measure will necessitate a revision to the survey, as the current survey identifies the separate previously approved non-planted buffer areas and planted buffer areas, and also an amended covenant or a new covenant would need to be filed with the county clerk as well. The applicant's agent did get back to me and indicated that they have no issue with the recommended wetland impact mitigative measures. As such, we have sufficient information to make a determination, and the public hearing requirement can be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025048, Diane Waranis, applicant request postponement to April 8th, 2026.
Motion to postpone to April 8th.
Second?
All in favor? Opposed? A 025057, Jarvis Family Trust. Applicant request postponement to April 8th, 2026.
Motion postponed to April 8th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025068, Orkin Gono.
This application relates to an existing residentially developed property fronting on a tributary, and my apologies, as the preliminary advisory report does not appear to be in the package.
It is, I think they are in the package. Both the last one and this one are in the packages that we
they're there.
have.
They're not in my package.
Not Marty's.
Okay. All right, well, I'm glad they're in
I
your
see
package.
that one is not. Sorry, I apologize.
It's okay.
The cover sheet's there, though.
Yeah, the cover sheets are there. So this application has been made because the applicant is seeking this board's approval and a wetland permit to put in a small pool on the property. The landowner hoped to build the pool at grade on the water side of the residence, but the property is quite constrained due to the pre-existing non-conforming location of the residence, the extent of wetlands as well. So I recommended that the applicant consider installing the pool on a second level deck within the existing footprint, only requiring a very minor expansion, about 9.8 square feet. In looking at the history of this property, I also found that there were certain improvements that were made at the property that need to be legalized as part of the review of this pending application. The deck was constructed many years ago, but it was reconstructed after Chapter 325 was adopted without seeking wetland permits. The deck was not, the footprint was not enlarged. There were patio and retaining wall that was built underneath the second floor deck. There were some trench drains that were installed. The driveway was expanded. The front entry to the residence was changed, which overall those improvements are somewhat minor, notwithstanding their fairly close proximity to wetlands. I had indicated to the landowner from the start that he would need to be amenable to essentially giving up his lawn and maximizing the restored buffers so that it would come right up to the elevated back deck where the pool is proposed. So I did forward a drawing to him showing him the extent of area that needs to be reclaimed and covenanted as a naturally vegetated buffer. The buffer is maximized. I think the installation of the pool, which is only about 200 square feet, at a higher elevation within the footprint of an existing deck, I think that somewhat lessens its impact on wetlands and wildlife. It is going to be a saltwater pool. The necessary pool dry well will be installed. I also looked at surrounding properties, and I found that this board had granted relief to the abutting northerly landowner in order to undertake improvements inclusive of decking and changes to the house at the same setbacks that would be met by this application with virtually the same buffer requirements. So in light of that history as well, I am supportive of this application as long as the applicant establishes this restored buffer. That being said, this is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. As such, I'm recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 024032, Timothy Hayes and Rhea Hayes. This is a resolution to approve modified conditional approval.
This is a property that contains and abuts considerable flooded freshwater wetlands that fortunately have been preserved by the town. The presence of the approximate residents resulted in some impacts to the wetlands. There was some unauthorized fill placed along the shoreline, unauthorized rocks as well. The application was made because the landowner has an interest in demolishing and removing the existing vinyl pool and constructing a new pool. In order to enhance the environmental conditions on the property, the landowner has agreed to remove approximate sheds, to remove fences, to establish a fairly significant vegetated buffer. I had, when this application was first made to the board, which was in the fall of 2024, I had provided a alternate design sketch for the pool and the intended improvements. After considerable communication back and forth, the applicant agreed to that sketch, agreed to the recommended extent of buffer and wetland preservation and needed reclamation measures at the site. The applicant, notwithstanding their agreement with that Environment Division alternate drawing, which resulted in the board granting a conditional approval. They decided to shift things, shift the pool and the sheds around and the pool deck or patio around, no closer to wetlands than had previously been approved by this board. They are still going to be respective of the required covenant buffer to all the restoration needs. So this is a modification that's not going to result in any new adverse wetland impacts. As such, there is a resolution before you to authorize modified conditional approval so that the applicant can file the requisite covenants and come forward with a comprehensive native revegetation plan for the site.
Motion to issue a modified conditional approval.
Second.
Resolved that a modified conditional approval be granted to Timothy Hayes and Rhea Hayes for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution to reschedule public hearing, A 022017, Gary DeLiva and others.
Just make a motion.
Motion to reschedule
the
the
date.
public hearing
How do we reschedule it to?
for May 13th.
Yeah. So moved.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby reschedules the public hearing for May 13th, 2026. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And
You want to hold off on the exec session?
We can do it after. Well, we said the public hearings would start at 7, so, yeah.
nobody's here for the public hearings, we could close them all.
You're right.
Who showed up? Reschedule.
If you read this, this is what really tells you what's going on.
That's the complete, yeah.
Here's the agenda.
I already handed out the
We need a
survey.
guide to like things to read first.
Did she give new survey? Okay, I put out. Okay.
Is that you? No.
We don't take action on them, do we? Yeah, these are administrative permits. I think we did, he usually
We already
says
handed out the
something.
surveys out here.
He usually says they're in your packet. He forgot tonight. He's preoccupied.
The administrative permits, usually you say something.
Hey, Dick.
Did he? I'm preoccupied.
I guess I am too. George and I were, our minds were elsewhere.
Thank you.
Notice it.
Somebody's paying attention.
I'll check the tape.
Finally received the original application from Maryland.
This one for this one.
No, we don't see them in the originals in there. no. This is for Christopher?
Nope, you just had it. The green, yeah.
Okay, yep.
Bingo. I'll introduce it. Public hearings, A 021076, Nicholas Christopher and Penelope Christopher, and this is a new application.
We do have affidavits of posting and mailing in compliance with the town code, and the board does have jurisdiction to open the hearing tonight.
And would you like to present your application?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Martha Reichert, Toomey Latham, Shea, Kelly Dubin, and Cordovaro, 33 West 2nd Street, for the applicants Nicholas and Penelope Christopher. Although this is being marked as a new application, we were actually before this board about a year and change ago to deal with certain different issues. And we had requested an adjournment to go back to the drawing table, realizing that this is sort of the opportunity for the Christophers to redevelop their property in a way that would fit with their needs, and also address some of the prior issues. This property benefited from an approval in the 1990s where they did not actually build the full extent of what had been approved. And so again, with some of that background and history, we came before this board about a year and a half ago, requested an adjournment, spent some time going back to the drawing table and trying to figure out how to, again, redevelop the property in a way that was sensitive towards the wetlands, address all of the prior issues that had been raised by the Environment Division, and again, provide adequate buffers, drainage, et cetera. The proposal is to, within the existing footprint of the residence, build a new two-story home with decking, some of it similar to the existing decking, some of it slightly expanded on the westerly side of the house, but for the most part, largely in keeping with what was approved by the original permit in the 1990s. This is a challenging site for anyone that's been there. There are freshwater wetlands surrounding it to the north. On the westerly side, there's a pond. There's a very shallow depth to groundwater. Part of the project will include an IA system. And one of the things that made, again, this project so challenging is the shallow depth to groundwater, the small size of the lot, working with, again, a limited lot size, lot width, et cetera. We actually went through several different engineers, and our current engineer, most of them who all said this was one of the most challenging sites they had encountered. Our engineer, David Rhodes from TF Engineering, is here today to address any technical questions. Just before the hearing, Marty was able to email to us his sketch. He went out, saw the site. There is not a new staff report. So what we have is Marty's sketch, and we're just sort of taking it in right now. But the application that we have presented here today is the product of a lot of different meetings, and an attempt to, again, address the needs of the family. But the house is a pre-existing non-conforming home. It's quite old. It needs to be updated. The crawl space is sitting in the groundwater. It needs, it needs significant work, and so really the smartest thing at this point would be to utilize that existing footprint for a two-story home. We're keeping the existing garage where it is. We have the driveway. Marty's sketch has recommended removing the paving of the driveway and putting in pervious pavers, which is something that we had previously discussed with the applicant.
You know everything, so.
And we would be amenable to. However, I do think that some of Marty's comments regarding the drainage are best addressed by our engineer, Mr. Rhodes. And, one of the things that I want to point out is that when we were last before the board had said that it would require an expanded buffer of 10 feet from the prior covenanted buffer. Marty's sketch, it appears to me, has more of an expanded buffer than what we had considered, so I think that's something that we would like to explore with the board, and also with our engineer to ensure that we're not handcuffing this property from future needs for drainage, et cetera, but also just, there's not really a lot of space here. The family has young grandchildren. I know they grow, but in the meantime, they're there. 5 feet from the proposed deck isn't a lot of space with respect to maintenance. Mr. Christopher had a very grave and near fatal experience with babesiosis. So I know that it would definitely be his preference to have a little more space between the house and the non-disturbance buffer. So I think there's room for us to discuss all of this. Like I said, we're taking this all in. But we would like to get some feedback from the board because we spent some time, we spent a lot of time going through and trying to make this property work. And again, I have David Rhodes here, and do you want to come up and address some of the things, or do you want to react to questions from the board?
Either way, if you want to do questions from the board, then
Harry, what's your pleasure?
You've done your application, that's fine. I'd like to hear Marty's response, and then there'll be some questions.
Okay, perfect.
Before you go, it's hard for me to read on the survey the width of the deck, the proposed deck on the westerly side, right where you have the 5-foot buffer,
Did you say the depth?
the width.
Oh, the width? It looks to me like it's 5 feet from the deck, but I don't have a scale ruler on me. So perhaps Marty can address that since it's his sketch.
No, the deck, I'm asking.
Oh, the deck.
Yeah, how wide is the deck? I can't read it on the survey.
Matt, do you know what yeah, all right. I'm going to bring up Matt Ivins.
George, do you mean the depth from the edge of the deck going to the?
Yeah, I think he's
Yes.
asking the
Okay.
width of the deck, yes.
Oh, here, let me grab that.
10 feet or so.
Yeah, I think it's 10. Yeah. 10 feet, so.
So the deck is going to be 10 feet?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, that section, there's a wider section as well at the north end.
Yeah, yes, that I know, but I just wanted to know right where the 5-foot buffer is.
All right. I'll yield to Marty.
Good evening, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This application dates back for some time. So there was a lengthy preliminary advisory report that was prepared and distributed all the way back in February of 2022, but that related to the prior project and proposal before the plans were put forward for redevelopment of the site. That being said, just briefly, the advisory report spoke to the history of the property and various activities that had occurred at the property that needed to be legalized or otherwise addressed by this board, including changes to decks and steps and driveway, and then there was a need for installation of drainage. So it was a radically different application that was before you than the current project plans that we're looking at tonight. If what's helpful with regards to the applicant's survey is they've overlaid the proposed new two-story house over the existing improvements. For those who have not been there, property benefits from a one-story house. It has decking on the water side of the house, wood decking that is old, that is at grade or just above grade, and then it has higher decking at the northwest corner of the house. So the initial application was to try and legalize that deck work and address drainage issues on the property. But now we're looking at an entirely different plan, which is indicated calls for the construction of a two-story home. As was alluded to, the applicant is very wetland constrained and wet property. I apologize for getting the sketch to the applicant at this late hour. After they had submitted the project plans, I had visited the property on February 17, 2026, but the snow cover was yet too heavy in order for me to complete a comprehensive assessment of the site conditions and the project plans. So the new plans have been tailored to work with the existing footprints of the present-day home and the decks as much as possible, with just a minor extension of the deck by about a foot or so towards the flooded freshwater wetlands. Because of the constraints of this property, notwithstanding that the proposed deck is as close as 13 feet landward of wetlands, there is no ability to move the new home further landward on this site. So it's logical and appropriate to build a new home and decks in the current dwelling and deck footprints. And one of the reasons is they, as indicated on the survey, they need to provide sufficient land area to put in a nitrogen-reducing IAOW-TS, which is well detailed and planned roadside of the proposed two-story house, and appears to meet all of the Suffolk County Department of Health Services requirements. I am supportive of redevelopment of this property and building of a new home and new decks, essentially in the same footprint. I think it's logical, but because of the very close proximity of the home to valued freshwater wetlands, there is a need to mitigate the impacts of this project by maximizing the required naturally vegetated buffers. If you were to visit this property, you would find that because of the wet conditions of the property, while there is a minimal area of grass or lawn on the seaward, on the water side of the current dwelling, and certainly lawn on the roadside and some lawn to the south of the house. Much of the area to the west of the house has been reverting to freshwater wetlands over the years, managed somewhat by casual mowing of some of those areas over the years by the applicant. The benefit of that is much of the area to the west of the dwelling, where you would entertain establishing a buffer, can be left to revert to natural vegetation, which is essentially a low ground cover of sedges and rushes, rather than requiring that the landowners go to great expense planting any required buffer. Where the wetland issuance standards can be met, and for developed properties, the code seeks a minimum setback of 100 feet for construction and 75 feet for a buffer. Where that can't be met, which obviously is the case here, the goal should be to try and maximize the naturally vegetated buffers adjacent to wetlands. So what I provided to the applicant tonight, and which was just shared with board members, is a drawing that I prepared after returning to Town Hall from my site visit this morning. and it shows a number of things. It shows, and I should mention that I did look at the, you'll see on the survey, there's January 28, 2022 wetland boundary that I have flagged. It does appear to be accurate yet today. So what my plan shows is what the site would look like if you maximized the buffers. Where we have significant constraints, in maximizing buffers, we typically look to allow for a minimum of a 10-foot offset of lawn or access away from the principal building, and at its closest 5 feet or less off the deck, which would appear to be elevated deck. While the buffers as drawn leave very minimal lawn area on the west and south sides of the residence, the main exterior use area for this property would become the elevated deck. As indicated, the ground is often wet, is often mucky, so it's not an ideal area for any significant exterior activities. When we had looked at this application previously, cognizant of the very shallow groundwater conditions at this property, we had previously recommended that rather than install structural subsurface drainage, that the applicant explore installing trench drains or French drains around the residence, which are essentially ditches that are filled with stone, and typically you have perforated piping connected from the downspouts from the roof gutters that runs the length of those stone trenches, and allowing for dissipation of runoff over a larger area. But today, the other direction to go when you have challenging shallow groundwater conditions is to look at any opportunities to install Coltec or similar design systems, which are ideal for shallow groundwater. I have concern regarding the current plans for installing extensive Coltec drainage and fill in order to raise up the level of that drainage immediately adjacent to flooded wetlands. So what I'm recommending is that the Coltec drainage that is currently located right now to the south of the new home, and also south of the detached garage and to the west of the L-shaped deck, that those plans being abandoned in favor of taking advantage of the moderately sized driveway for installation of Coltec drainage in that area. The benefits of going with this type of drainage is that you can park vehicles over it. So, as noted, this current plan calls for retaining the existing paved driveway, which we rarely allow on any wetland properties, particularly constrained wetland properties. So, because of the challenges that the landowner is facing in installing drainage, we don't want to have a paved driveway that's going to contribute additional runoff. The paved driveway should be removed, and the Coltec drainage should be installed in that area and overlain with stone, so that that footprint can continue to be used as a drive. And while I have not scaled this off, the you look at the footprint of the existing paved driveway, and you look at the footprint of the proposed Coltech drainage to the south of the house and to the west of the deck, and the minor part of the planned Coltech drainage that would need to be scaled back to the north of the garage in order to provide at least some buffering area for the wetlands, you almost have sufficient area in that existing drive footprint to put that same amount of Coltech drainage in that area. In summation, I am supportive of this plan. However, I see a need to look at alternate locations and designs for the Coltech drainage, and perhaps alternate methodology for accommodating drainage. There is still an errant wire fence in the northwest corner of the property in the wetlands. It's partly rolled up and bailed up. That fence has got to go. There is a non-functional, non-frame shower spigot off the back of the existing garage that needs to be removed as well, because certainly you don't want to replace that shower and have a situation where soaps and shampoos and stuff are going into flooded wetlands that are extremely valuable to herpetofauna, including salamanders, frogs, and turtles. So this is a beautiful site. I was impressed by the signage that the applicant had posted, indicating that the National Wildlife Federation had commemorated their property as backyard wildlife habitat. That inspired me because it made me believe that these are landowners that are trying to do the right thing for the environment. So while my recommended buffers would result in the loss of lawn area to the south and west of the new dwelling, they would allow for preservation of the magnificent large trees that you have on this property, which the applicant has always been amenable to preserving to the maximum extent practicable. There is one tree at the southwest corner of the proposed two-story house. Hopefully that tree can be saved, but they may have to take that tree down. But all the other large trees that are most important, except for the smaller maple tree on the south side of the garage, would be contained and preserved by my buffer. So this is an application where just the need for some additional work in terms of the drainage design, and hopefully the applicant is amenable to expanding the buffers. The 10-foot buffer that was established many, many years ago, it's no longer functional as a buffer because the wetland boundaries, as flagged in 2022, have advanced far into that buffer. So my hope is that the applicant is amenable to the recommended buffers and preservation plan that you have before you. So hopefully there is an opportunity for me to work closely with the applicant in order to come to resolution and agreement on a final plan rather quickly, so that we can issue the necessary wetland permit allow to go forward with the redevelopment plan. This property has come a long way. So I'm happy to see that a new conforming energy efficient home will be built on this site. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty, for that. I think that we are actually pretty close in terms of where the Environment Division wants us to be and also what the applicant needs. I do want to bring up David Rhodes right now to address some of the engineering.
And I think we need to address the engineering. Let's see what some of these drainage things, see if these things are possible. See if they're possible with somebody who has letters after his name.
Exactly. So I want to bring up David Rhodes because he can address those issues, and then Matt and I will come up as needed.
You heard the presentation.
Yes.
You probably picked up a lot of that and the gist of it. The gist of it is, let's move away from the wetlands. Let's do double duty on space as much as we can. And I don't know how you arrive at the space you need for drainage, and I don't know how tied in you are to those dimensions. But we're looking for creativity.
Right, so,
Excuse me, could you just identify yourself?
Yeah,
for the
Dave,
record,
my
please?
name is David Rhodes with TF Engineering in Sag Harbor. So as you noted, there's a lot of challenges here because we got high groundwater. The groundwater out on the site is elevation 9. A lot of the site is 9.1 to 10. And so as we looked at this site, if just looking at using Coltech culverts out there, we need 2 feet of separation from the groundwater, plus the smallest section they have is 1 foot, plus we need at least 6 inches on top of that for the Coltech culverts. And that means we would need a minimum elevation of 12.5 over the culverts to make those work. Now, one of the suggestions was, what if we put this in the driveway? So the problem there is that the finished floor elevation of the garage is 9.4. Now, Coltech culverts are not traffic rated. So we would have to switch out to another product that is traffic rated. We'd have to add at least another 1.5 foot section of rock and stuff to make them traffic rated. So that raises us up to a minimum elevation of the driveway to be at 14, which is about 4.5 feet above the finished floor of the garage. So I don't see how that works. The other recommendation is, well, what if we put permeable pavers over the top of the Coltech chambers? But Coltech chambers are plastic, and they would make basically an ocutard underneath it, so the water would have no place to go through the permeable pavers. So I don't see how putting them in the driveway really works at all. In the past, we have worked with the town engineer, and he has allowed us to reduce our separation of groundwater from 2 feet to 6 inches, which would lower the Coltech chambers by about 1.5 feet. So instead of 12.5, that takes us down to about elevation 11. The problem with that, or the challenge with that, is I'm not aware of the DEC allowing that same relief from their 2 foot requirement of the storm chambers to the groundwater. So while we can get it from the town, I'm not sure that we can get it from the DEC. So,
Let me ask you another question. The discussion of a French drain has not happened yet, but is there any way that a French drain of some creative design could reduce some of the need for the Coltech or for the drainage chambers?
yeah, I mean, I'd have to go back and take a look at that. The issue we have with the trench drains is that it's, as Marty said, it's a rock-filled chamber. So, if you look at the Coltech is just a large open chamber, 100% void ratio. When we start dealing with rock-filled chambers, you only have a void ratio of 33%. And it's still about 1 foot high on height, which is the same as the Coltech chambers. So my gut's telling me we're going to be about 2/3 more, or 2 times as much with the chambers, with the French drains than we are with the chambers, because it's 33% void ratio versus 100% void ratio.
When you go to the site, you will discover that the area east of what is called the existing stone bridge, there are 2 sections that are named Pond here. When I was at the site a week or so ago, that area to the west of the bridge was at the water level was at a significant lower elevation than that to the east. Now, I don't know that property as well as you folks who've been there all the time. Is that a normal circumstance?
So, yeah, a lot of times what happens is on these properties, they have what they call an occutard. There's a clay layer or a different, a silty layer that doesn't allow the water to freely drain through. So it perches on top of these subsoil layers. And that's why you get the groundwater much higher on the property than you do the surface water around it. So, and that's probably what we have here. Our test hole only went down 1.5 feet and it was marked as dark brown loam, so.
Well, that bridge is on top of, it looks like a dam. And water's coming through it simply by the elevation, the force of water pressure. It's squeezing through some of those rocks. If some of those rocks weren't there and that water dropped down to the same level as that to the east, would that change the groundwater on the property?
I mean, it may work with respect to the storm drainage, but when it comes to the health department requires us to do the highest expected groundwater elevation. So if there's a groundwater elevation of 9, that's what we have to design to. Even if the water does go down a little bit, we'd still have to use the 9 because that was recorded at one time. So, now, one of the things that I've used, not around here, but in other areas of the country, is rain gardens. But I know that they're not well received around here, and I don't know why, but rain garden would be an alternative approach of, putting depressions on the ground to receive the water and then evapotranspirate it or, infiltrate it in versus doing subsurface. And then we don't need the 2-foot separation. We could put them pretty low there and you plant them and let them grow. So I'm not sure if that's an option that somebody would be willing to entertain, but I mean, it's better than raising the grade by 2.5 feet to put a chamber in, so.
I'd be open to anything creative to make something work here. I don't like adding a whole bunch of soil for drainage. To me, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we have to meet the 2-foot separation, and if your groundwater's at 9, that's.
We have a crisis between the requirements, the legal requirements, and the engineered practicality.
And like I said, we have worked with the town engineer and got it reduced to 6 inches. So that allows us to bring it down, but the DEC's involved here, and we'd have to get their approval, their variance from the 2-foot requirement.
Excuse me, could you help me out with some of my own ignorance here? Could you go into a little bit the need for this drainage and why it's required?
I'd have to leave that to Marty. It's a requirement of the town, so,
The drainage that you're talking about is a requirement of the town?
Yes, all impervious drainage has to be, you need to be able to provide enough storm drainage for a 2-inch storm event on all your impervious surfaces.
What if someone deemed that this area was drainable by itself?
That'd be acceptable to us. It's your town requirement. You would have to grant a variance to relieve us from that requirement.
So this is coming from the town, not the DEC or the health department?
Correct, yes. The DEC can require it too, but.
I said I was ignorant, and I'm looking for,
If you don't mind, I can speak just quickly to that.
Yeah.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. Actually, my office and Conservation Board is very flexible in terms of drainage. We don't have, although there are some standard permit conditions that often adhere to permits, we're open to using rain gardens, French drains, We're open to allow for natural drainage. So on a site like this, a challenging site like this, my office and this board is not restrictive and will give you all the relief that you need in order to lessen the cost and challenges of installing structural drainage. So we're completely open. Now, I am happy to hear that you actually suggested the possibility of using, of creating rain garden areas on this property. I would likely be highly supportive of that. If notwithstanding a lessening of the requirements for capture of rainfall, we entertain granting relief. So on a site like this, as long as you don't create a situation where you have water that's channeled and causing erosion and causing sedimentation of the adjacent wetlands, we're completely open in terms of how site drainage can be addressed. It's interesting, when I visited the property this morning with a board member, you're probably aware there's where that high pond area, there is a pipe under the road that discharges there. And although it was hidden by soil and vegetation, there appears to be the entry of the pipe is apparently on the opposite side of the road. So yes, I would agree that there's likely a lot of variability in terms of clays, which are playing a big role in holding water at a higher level. But they're also, this area is also a collecting area for drainage that's coming from the east side of the road. So in summation, my office and this board is completely open in terms of creative drainage designs for this property, because what's being proposed here, it appears to be overkill. I also don't support bringing in fill for the purposes of installing drainage. That drainage plan would be very costly to the landowner, and one of my goals is always to try and work with landowners to keep costs down. So we're completely open in terms of considering alternate ways of managing drainage at this property. And I can also confirm that the town engineer has been very flexible with regard to the required separation between the base of the Coltec and groundwater, and has provided relief down as far as 6 inches. Thank you. Oh, can I just,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Come on up.
Oops.
There's my papers.
Oh, and we had a little bit of discussion about, trying to make use of the available land for drainage as much as possible. Notwithstanding that the applicants have been using that area north of the driveway as a garden bed, that's another area that could be used for drainage as well. If you go with an alternate drainage design here, it would also probably, it may negate the need to take down that very large spruce tree next to the garage, which appears to be healthy. So we want to try and avoid a drainage design that's going to require that tree removal as well. Even Coltec south of the house would require tree removal. And trees on this property are magnificent. They're a real asset in terms of the character of this property. So that's another reason why we want to be flexible with the drainage options. Thank you.
Martha, before you begin, would you just speak of the elevation of the proposed house in relation to the existing house? Same or higher?
When you say the elevation, are you talking about the base, the first floor elevation? I don't,
Next time, but they do wish to elevate it 1 or 2 feet.
right, so we're not in a flood zone, but I don't have floor plans and elevations, so I don't,
Fleshed out yet, so.
yeah, they haven't been fleshed out yet by the architect at
Okay.
this point. But do you want to take me where you're headed with this?
Well, what I'm thinking is if we elevate the house a little bit, and I'm not talking about a lot, but maybe a foot, it gives a lot more flexibility of draining things away from the house. I was also thinking about and you gotta talk to the engineer, but I was thinking about some combination of multiple drainage styles. And one, as I mentioned before, a French drain. That may not be sufficient, but it's fine, it'll do something. If that's a practical way of dealing with it, maybe that is something in combination. Now, you're looking to take a 2-inch rain. Now, that area that is designated as drainage area, roughly south and east of the house. That area, and I'm just looking at that spot. If that spot is that needs to take essentially 2 inches of rain, which would fall on the square footage of the proposed house. So what I'm wondering is, suppose you do something like a rain garden, and I don't know much about those things, I just heard about it, but I'm just imagining that if you had something like a berm that would be 4 inches, to take 2 inches from the house and 2 inches from where the rain is landing on the property, and you can do all the calculations to streamline that and be more efficient. But if you had a 2-inch berm, roughly around that area or something like that, and skip these hard structures and let that rain percolate through the existing terrain, why wouldn't that work?
I hope it will. And I'm going to let David Rhodes address that because he does have those letters after his name. But I have like a practical question, which is if we were to install rain gardens in lieu of the Cultec chambers to address our requirement under the code, right, to contain our stormwater, would that go into the buffer or would it be sort of a covenanted? I mean, I think that part of the creativity that this site requires is not only coming up with creative and perhaps diverse drainage solutions, but maybe even looking at our standard form that we use for the declaration of covenants to also be a little creative. Because one of the things I was thinking about, and again, I'm trying to be creative here, is that for those who have been to the site, the property owners are not using fertilizer. There's no lawn. It's mostly moss. There's very little lawn. Let's put it that way. It's not a lot. It's not turf. It's not fertilized. And I was thinking almost of what if the entire site was a no fertilization zone, but that if we could have a little more of a non-disturbance, an area that is not non-disturbance on the east side of the house, right? Just again to permit a little more recreational area that isn't just the deck. And the deck that we're proposing under this application is actually smaller than what was approved by the Conservation Board in 1996. Not by much, but probably, I don't know, what, 30? 50 square feet, smaller than what was previously approved in 1996. It just didn't get built. But I think that there's a way to be creative with the drafting of the declaration where we can achieve the goals of preserving the mature trees through, a bespoke declaration that's a little bit different from the standard form. But, protecting those trees, again, making the allowance for the rain garden. I'm just thinking about the practical mechanics, and David Rhodes can answer those questions more of, the installation of the rain garden, the maintenance that may be required to keep it functioning over time to capture the sufficient amount of rainwater. And so I think that we're open to creative solutions, but we also need to be creative with the legal document that papers all of this to permit it to function properly. And so I want to put that out there as something for this board to think about, because I think that we can certainly create covenants that protect the trees, that put in creative drainage, and hopefully can also address a little more non-disturbance area on the east side of the house for the family to use. Because one of the things that happens is the original covenanted buffer, it worked, and it reverted back to wetland, right? Which is why we see a wetland boundary line that keeps changing. So every time we put something into buffer, if it's non-disturbance, it's, eventually there's no more room. The wetlands will keep taking over, and I know that's the natural process, and that's what we want to encourage, but at a certain point, how do we sort of balance the equities here of having a little bit more than just 5 feet off the deck? While, again, maintaining and protecting the mature trees, which Marty wants to see, and also addressing the stormwater drainage, storage, and requirements under the code.
I was hoping we could close this tonight because I thought it was real simple. It's not as simple as it appeared when we visited. But we've been spending a lot of time here, and I think we should adjourn it. Okay.
The appropriate area where a rain garden would be proposed is on the north side of the driveway and existing garage. That's really the only area where you might have a suitable area, might be a little bit drier in order to create a rain garden that's functional. You're otherwise too tight. We're so close to the wetlands. We need those healthy buffers, because those buffers not only are they important in terms of biodiversity and wildlife habitat, they're so important in terms of filtering out contaminants contained in runoff. So the real opportunity is right there. Might be an opportunity for something smaller on the immediate north side of the two-story house, but I would not entertain creating constructed rain gardens in any required buffering area. Thank you.
So David Rhodes has requested just a couple minutes of the board's time to make a statement before we adjourn.
I just wanted to correct one thing. I did look at our calculations on our drainage. We used 3-inch storm event, which is required by the DEC. So not the 2-inch, which is required by the town. We used 3 inches, which is required by the DEC. So
Do they bend?
we can work with them. I mean, but
See what you can do.
okay.
Do you know how tall the retaining wall will be around the septic system?
Let's see, it's on the survey, I think it's pretty low, so top of wall is at 12, bottom of wall is at 8.3, and I think David was saying that we're at 9 for the elevation in that area, so we're looking at 3 feet, more or less.
There may be regulations against this. Was there any way you could funnel some of that water on top of the septic system? We've already got a mounted system. You've got a whole area that could absorb an awful lot of water.
No, we can't. I mean, they don't want you to drown out the septic system. They want that nice and dry to receive the storm.
Septic system is water, you know.
I know, but it's
When there's no
you don't want to
water-
overload it. You don't want to overload a septic system with high flow. You usually get trickling flows from your sanitary. Yeah, storm drainage, you get high flows, and so you would overload your system.
So let's adjourn this. Tell me when you want to adjourn it to, for the purpose of seeing what you can come up with, working with the DEC. If you could move that from 3 down to 2, that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would probably be helpful to have a meeting with Marty to discuss some of the options that we're looking at. So I think, Marty, what's realistic? Could we get a meeting in the next week or 2, or?
Well, I'm always available. If you can, email, rough drawings and stuff to me, that can expedite the review as opposed to having a sit down, trying to schedule a sit down meeting. We have to look at our hearing calendar and see, what's available. But, like I said, I'd love to see this application brought to resolution. I'd love to see us come to agreement on a final plan. So I will do the best I can to make myself available to provide feedback expeditiously when you forward any concept drawings to me.
All right, so let me confer with my experts in terms of how much time they need. 4 weeks? 6 weeks? All right, so, I don't want to needlessly request an adjournment, but let's look at 4 weeks. I don't know if that fits with everyone's calendar for continuation.
This is what's happening in 4 weeks. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 applications on. 5 of them are essentially the same thing. Marty's going to give a report, which is going to be probably the last piece of information we need for the board to make a determination. We moved that from May 13th to April 22nd because the applicants are anxious to get a resolution to this. With the idea that if Marty doesn't get that report out,
Yeah.
we're going to move all those to May 13th. So if we can schedule this for April 22nd
You
under this.
already have 6 hearings on
Yes.
that day. I don't recommend that we add another hearing on that date.
If these
This-
get adjourned, they'll go
Yes,
to May
those-
13th.
Because
This
those
is-
hearings are not going to be adjourned.
I'm taking my first vacation in 2 years on May 13th, and I'm
You're going to be on vacation?
going to be on vacation.
Okay.
May 27th?
Do you think that report will be produced by April?
Well, I don't plan on preparing a report. We're in the final stages here. It's just a matter of me working.
No, he's
He's
talking
talking
about
about the 4 or 5 that are
the
together
4
on
hearings that are on April
Headlines.
22nd. Do you think we'll be ready for those to happen on April 22nd?
I'm hoping, and that's my plan. So right now, I would not recommend that you add another hearing on that.
So if we're not ready by April 22nd, they get moved to May 13th. She's going on vacation anyway, May 27th.
So you're going on
Move one, we
vacation when?
won't necessarily move it
I'm
to-
going to be out that week that the May 13th hearing is.
Yeah.
Just for a week?
So May 27th.
But I'm going camping in the national no radio zone, or radio-free zone, so I can't even be contacted on a cell phone.
How about May 27th?
Let's adjourn it to May 27th.
Unless you can do it for April 8th,
That'll-
which
that'll
looks
give us
wide
all,
open.
Enough time.
Yeah, that's next week, more or less. My thinking is, Marty, if we're able to address everything with you before the continued hearing, it would probably be a very short hearing, potentially on April.
To have 6 already on there
Right
is
now,
adding,
I
yeah.
am not going to be here next week.
Okay,
that's
so,
why
May 27th.
so let's do May 27th then.
work on,
This
April.
process started in 2023, so I don't understand why there's a pressure here
Oh,
in terms
no,
of a couple
no
of
pressure, just the desire to
So
keep
why
the
don't we do it
momentum.
on May 27th? Is that good for everybody?
Yeah, May 27th works.
Oh, good.
Anyone else here on Zoom?
Motion to,
Wait.
Is there anyone in the public or on Zoom that wishes to speak in this application?
No one?
There being none, is there a motion to adjourn to May 27th?
So moved.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all.
Anybody who's got their stuff, can you hand it back, please?
your survey,
Oh, yes, sorry.
unless you'd like to keep it, you're welcome to hold on to it.
That's okay.
Okay. Can you hand it back?
A024028 Douglas Bauer.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Grant Reiner, Nelson Pope and Voorhees here on behalf of the applicant. I'm also here tonight with Alex Ham, who is the architect for the project. We were here before you on February 12th. We had quite some dialogue with regards to the proposed project at that time. We had collected your comments, feedback, and further analyzed comments offered by Marty Shea through his preliminary staff report, as well as comments that we heard from him at the hearing. And we did some revisions late last week, and I apologize for getting it in so late, Marty. We did make a submission that addresses the
Just apologize.
It doesn't help me.
the 325-9D standards. We walked through them at the hearing on the 12th, but per the request of Marty, we actually submitted them in writing with regards to our formal responses. You have those all before you. I don't plan on going through all of the standards. Just very briefly, with regards to those standards, we did do the alternative analysis, and one of the most practicable alternatives that we discussed with you at the February 12th hearing was what we're now considering alternative 2. So I'd like to take some time tonight and talk to you about alternative 2. Very quickly going through with you what alternative 2 means relative to the previous proposal, and then also just hoping that we can continue the dialogue and maybe bring this to a close. So very quickly, the submission package that we delivered to the Environment Division last week included an updated site plan, again, a clear outline of the variance standards, an updated landscape plan, and updated architectural plans. Also coupled with that was a letter from Mr. Ham that addresses the ability to do the renovations to the existing house to meet the HERS standards without needing substantial structural improvements. So again, we'd like the board to consider what we're considering alternative 2 as our new proposed action. Alternative 2, again, is a development from the practicable alternatives analysis that we explored with you. And again, based upon your feedbacks, it is the plan that we are putting forward at this time. Alternative 2 provides the following concessions with regards to the proposed improvements. There will no longer be a second-story expansion of the existing house. We are simply asking the board to consider allowance for interior and exterior renovations with no need for substantial structural improvements because the house is going to be renovated in place. We don't feel, and there are structural engineering reports to back this up, that there will be a need for any structural improvements to the house. There will be some partition walls interior that will need to be relocated with regards to fixtures and window replacements. But all in all, the house will remain standing and will be renovated in place. And Mr. Ham is here to speak to you tonight about more of the details with that, if you have any further questions. Alternative 2 also reduces the amount of decking on the seaward side of the house by 237 square feet. And the remainder of the deck that will remain in place will simply be refurbished, so new decking. And again, the structural supports that are there are assumed to be in good condition based upon structural engineering reports that we have. So again, minimal disturbance will be necessary on the seaward side of the house. Also, by removing portions of the deck that are more seaward, that are the most seaward portions, we are essentially increasing the wetland setback of all decking to remain. There is also the removal of a bilco door, which is on the seaward side of the house, and that is near the existing decking. So all in all, with the removal of the decking and the removal of the bilco door, we were able to further expand the native wetland buffer, tighten it up to the existing decking that is to remain, and overall provide more habitat as part of an expanded buffer. There was also a reduction of the proposed 2-story addition that is on the landward side of the house. So overall, there is a significant reduction of the proposed gross floor area to be in the house inclusive of the existing to remain and the proposed additions.
Thank you.
Nearly all of the proposed structural additions to the house will be at least 100 feet from wetlands. The nearest proposed structural addition will be approximately 94 feet from the wetlands. So again, we're trying to achieve the 100-foot setback for all of the new proposed improvements. Again, all will be landward of the house, and nearly all of them meet the 100-foot setback requirement. The previously proposed sanitary system location will remain the same. It is the furthest away from wetlands. We believe it is the most appropriate location. It's well more than 150 feet. I believe it's closer to 165 feet for the septic tank and nearly 180 feet for the leaching pools. That is a significant improvement from the existing sanitary system that is nearly 30 feet from the wetlands. And again, that existing system will be removed. We heard a long discussion about drainage tonight from the board. Because of the way the proposed improvements are designed, all of the drainage will be more than 100 feet from the wetlands, it will achieve very close to, if not exceed the 100-foot setback, but it also will be contained within the existing improvements. It's designed to be around the pool and around the new addition of the house. And finally, this Alternative 2 will incorporate an expansive non-disturbance, non-fertilization, native vegetation wetland buffer to a 75-foot equivalent. This will add roughly 3,449 square feet of native habitat to the property. That was something that Mr. Shea had discussed as part of the February 12th meeting. So overall, we feel as though, as part of the practical alternatives exercise, we were able to develop this Alternative 2 plan, which we believe addresses the feedback we heard from the board and the feedback we heard from Marty. And we hope that you guys will consider this as a good alternative to the original application that was before you. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and again, Alex is here to do so as well.
Thank you.
Good evening, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. While I need to do a more thorough review of the revised plan and the letter from the architects, I am not yet convinced that this is the best direction to go in with this property. I'm scanning through the details of the architect's letter, and the intended renovations to the existing home are going to require an extensive amount of work, even though now the former plans for the second-story addition have been abandoned. So I really need to do is sit down with the building division to see how much of the house is essentially going to be left if all this work is done. We've had so many cases that have come before this board over the years. Applicants have indicated that they want to retain the existing home, and then when you get into these projects, they become a lot more expensive in terms of needed renovations than initially proposed. And then sooner or later, we're back here before the board, now looking at a total demolition and replacement of the residence. So and I haven't even had a chance, there's quite a lot of information here. I haven't even had a chance to look at the interior floor plans and whether or not that they show structurally what's going to happen to the existing residence. But just looking at the needed, it's unclear as to whether how much of the exterior walls would have to be almost totally replaced. I got to get a better handle on this spray foam installation. DEC recently contacted me to say that they're concerned regarding the use of this product. It creates a lot of hazardous issues in terms of the environment. So I need to take a close look at that as well. notwithstanding that the applicant may be offering to use spray foam as a way to lessen the amount of structural replacement that's needed. As initially shown in our alternate sketch, this property can be redeveloped in a way that it adheres fully to the minimum required wetland construction and buffer setbacks for developed properties of 100 feet and 75 feet. Yes, a consequence of that will be a slightly smaller residence, but it can be achieved on this property. I went through a very similar process with the abutting property to the north, where their initial plans were to retain and renovate the existing residence. And I finally convinced them of the merits and benefits of just building a whole new home at this property. And the end all of that was that we now have a home on the abutting northerly property that has compliant 75-foot buffer and a minimum construction setback of 100 feet. And just to show you how that buffer and construction setback is aligned with the proposal for this property, I very quickly drew on these plans to show you where that covenanted buffer and construction setback, how that lines up with what's being proposed at this property. While it appears, and I'll need to look at it further, that the applicant's likely goal in further extensions of the buffer to provide an average overall buffer of 75 feet. The buffer that's provided needs to be a functional block of buffer. These buffers that have linear extensions that are non-contiguous to adjacent buffers, they have very little value in terms of wildlife habitat. They're not very valuable in terms of entrapment, breakdown, and filtration of contaminants. They are difficult to manage, being linear in nature. The more likely to be impacted by invasives. The goal as expressed somewhat at the first hearing, the goal in creating a buffer is to create as much of a block, a rectangular block as you can, in a way that the buffer is not fragmented, in a way that the buffer is contiguous with preserved buffer on the adjacent property, and in a way that you have as much parallel buffer to the wetlands on the property. Yes, I see that the applicant cut back the deck a little bit, which, increased the parallel buffer a little bit, but I still am not convinced that this is the least environmentally damaging practicable alternative for this property. Nor am I convinced that the best course of action is not to just demolish the existing home and build a whole new energy efficient home. I know the applicant had formally expressed that they have a special attachment to this home. The family has special attachment to this home, but if you look at what the architect is recommending, that the exterior be taken off, that all these changes be made, the character of the existing home is going to totally change. So I don't even know that we're accommodating the goal of retaining is the existing architectural style and character of the home that the applicant has apparently strong feelings about. So,
Marty, if I can interrupt you for a second, I think we really appreciate the spirit of trying to really meet the wetlands permit requirements. But I think getting this on Friday before I think it was Friday, before a Wednesday hearing is obviously not allowed us to do the substantive, and allowed Marty to do the substantive detailed review to see the impact of this and also to have some further back and forth with you. So my suggestion is that we hold off discussing it until they really have the chance to, the plans have had a chance to be reviewed, the new plans.
Good point.
I want to avoid having to get in a scenario where the permit's issued and this project is underway, and then, you know, as often found by contractors, I'm told that a lot more work is going to be needed on this existing structure than was formerly thought, and leading to the conclusion that we really should just take down the structure and rebuild.
I mean, it's
And
a
then,
fair,
you know,
that's a fair
we're kind
point.
of in an awkward situation because the wetland and building permits have already been issued, and so I still think some additional time needs to be spent to look at practicable, environmentally less damaging and alternatives. And it's absolutely essential that I have the ability to read through this architect's letter more closely and to review it with the building division to see how much of this house is actually going to be left.
Right, and we need to
after-
go through the analysis to make sure we'd even be in a position to issue the permit under the standards. And you've laid out in your letter, which none of us have had a chance to read in any detail, but I think that deserves some time.
I mean, the applicant is still looking for a significantly larger home, so there's always the opportunity to look at, you know, scaling back the home a little bit more. So, yeah, you know, we still need to spend some additional time on the review of this application.
Very good.
I appreciate your comments, and I agree with you. I think that it's important for you guys to take a close look at everything that was submitted. I would say that some of the comments that I just heard from Marty are actually in contrary to what we were sort of discussing last time. So it is, for everybody's sake, it's important that we just understand exactly where we're going with this, because we felt like we were hopeful to move forward with the discussions where they left off last time, but it sounds like we're going backwards. And I think it is important that all things be considered, everything be fully reviewed. I open up to Marty reaching out to Chief Building Inspector, Mr. McDermott. I'm happy to have Alex be part of that discussion. I think it's important that all parties are there to really talk this through. I appreciate the board's concerns. I appreciate Marty's concerns with regards to, an overreach of construction activity after the fact. Alex is, with his license, his stamp, he put something into this record that actually verifies, in his opinion, how this can be constructed or actually executed. And it is important for that to be considered as well. So with that statement, unless, Alex, you have anything to offer tonight, again, I do respect the fact that you need time to review this stuff. Happy to give that to you. But please look at it with, an open mind to understand that, he is, more so than me, he's qualified to make these determinations. He's the one that's going to be overseeing this project, and he'll be happy to speak about that again at the next hearing. And again, happy to be part of a meeting with Mr. Shea and Mr. McDermott to go through all of it. So,
I have one question for your architect.
sure. Thank you.
Alex Ham, Staten Ham Architects.
Have you seen in all your experience of, and I assume you have significant experience using foam insulation, mixing the two parts and blowing it in. Besides all the health aspects, the fire hazards are over the top. There's all kinds of issues with foam, but it's a very effective, high R value per inch insulation that has a place. My question is this: in your experience using foam insulation on wood, which is often a sealer also. Have you seen over a period of time of 20, 30 years that that wood can no longer breathe, and once it gets wet, it stays wet and deteriorates?
I haven't run into that situation yet. The other things you're
You have
talking
or have
about,
not?
in terms of the wood getting wet and failing,
Yeah.
I haven't encountered that in any of the projects we've looked at, or even renovations we've done that have been spray foamed previously to our involvement in them. I'm not aware of any. I certainly, share some of the concerns that the DEP is looking at and the DEC is looking at in terms of spray foam and potential off-gassing issues and things like that that are a concern, mostly from what I understand, if they're improperly applied. So I am aware of that, but I'm also aware that it's a big part of being able to meet the stretch code that we're required to meet in order to have a tight enough house to be able to meet the requirements and get the HERS rating that we're searching for. So it's a bit of a difficult situation. And I'm hoping that there's some development of these spray foam type products that are going to be more environmentally friendly than they are. They are organic, however,
So is snake venom.
yes, exactly. Yes, so I share the concerns about it. I think part of renovation work in houses, sometimes you have limited availability to apply insulation the way you normally would day one. You're starting, with a 2x4 versus a 2x6 wall, so you're a bit limited there. Certainly, it's difficult to get the seal in a tight house that you need in order to pass the blower tests and not have too much air infiltration. I think one thing I was going to mention is I wanted to say that what we're planning to do with this house, we've done many times before with existing homes of about this age and have been able to do it without losing the house. It's generally all of the structural elements stay right where they are. It's a matter of choosing between adding the insulation from the outside or the inside, depending on where the better surface is. So when we do projects, we generally will bring the contractor in to do probes ahead of time to make sure we don't have hidden problems that are going to unwind things the way Mr. Shea was talking about. I'm fully aware of what happens on a lot of these projects, and I'm not arguing with him about that because it does happen, so I understand your concern. But this is one that we've taken on to do this type of a renovation to because we've evaluated and we feel that we can do this without having to lose the house. I think basically the form of it stays exactly like it is. It does need to be reclad no matter what we do, even if we decide, we're going to do the very bare minimum to keep the house as is. We want to change the siding on it, the roofing. We want to change some windows to make it more efficient so that it can have a smaller carbon footprint and be a cheaper house to run over the years. Also, if I may, while I'm speaking, I just wanted to address one other thing. The other alternative that we looked at, and one of the things I wanted Mr. Shea to consider is the house next door, we've studied to see how it was done. Our limitation is a little bit that we're more of a pie-shaped piece of property that gets narrower towards the street and upland. So it gets very punitive in terms of squeezing our sidewalls in, particularly with respect to the pyramid law, even more than the setbacks at that point. So it does severely limit the size of the house, and I would go as far as to say I don't always like to speak without talking to my clients, but I think that they would prefer to live in the house right where it is, as it is, than to build something new that's about the same size, but brand new and more expensive.
Brand new and more expensive?
Yes, brand new, more expensive than the renovation would be.
I don't find that particularly intuitive, but perhaps it is.
It would be, once we're starting from scratch, there's a lot involved in it. So saving the front house actually does really help the project. Essentially, the project we're proposing an alternative to would keep the existing house with as little alterations to it in the same footprint, and basically just moving the bedrooms upland and making slightly larger family-sized spaces within the original house.
At the next hearing, we'll be able to have a more complete report, and we should make some progress.
That's great.
Is
Is there
there-
any more questions?
I don't think so.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone in the public or on Zoom that would like to speak in this application?
No one?
Is there a motion to adjourn?
And when we want to adjourn it to, or we don't need to say that now?
We're gonna be going still to May 13th unless we're April 8th, because April 22nd is verboten.
Okay. May 13th?
May 13th,
that
okay?
work? Okay.
Move to adjourn to May 13th, 2026.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Sorry. She's a little late. That's all right.
A 025047 Adios Holding LLC, and this is a new application.
This is a new public hearing, but we do not have affidavits of posting and mailing, so it will have to be renoticed.
Yes.
Okay, so it's as soon as it can be renoticed.
Resolution at the next meeting to be noticed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
When would you like to,
I will, at the convenience of the board.
okay.
I'm not going on vacation anytime soon.
Rena
so-
will coordinate.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
I apologize for,
Thank you.
sure. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Oh, you too, Jim.
And the next is executive session.
Make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing litigation.
Second?
And immediately adjourn at the
And then,
conclusion.
excuse me, and immediately adjourn thereafter.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?